Tonight, 3 people arrested and charged with what police are calling a heinous crime in Conception Bay North.
A chilling death in Bay Roberts a week ago was a homicide, and a man and a woman who were arrested in this house following a long standoff on Saturday night have been charged with first-degree murder.
These crimes have shaken a number of communities and the residents of our province. Rest assured, RCMP is fully engaged in these investigations and committed to solving these crimes.
I'm Terry Roberts. I'll have that story coming up.
Just as we entered the park, there was a few cops putting down the speed strips. Came head-on with the driver, and just as they took him out of the truck for the arrest.
A high-speed highway chase has resulted in a truckload of charges for a 39-year-old Bishops Falls man. That story tonight on Here and Now.
A Bay Roberts man is looking for answers after his driver's license was suspended by mistake.
They didn't offer any explanation. The ball has been dropped somewhere.
I'm Maddie Ryan, and I'll have that story just ahead.
This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. Police have made 3 arrests in last week's gruesome death in Bay Roberts. RCMP believe a man was murdered and then burned by 2 men and a woman. Here and Now's Terry Roberts brings us the latest.
We learned today that the person killed in Bay Roberts last week was a 42-year-old man from Spaniards Bay. Police are not releasing his name at the request of his family. But after he was murdered on September 30th, his body was burned inside of a pickup truck here on this quiet dirt road. These are the people investigators believe committed the crime. Appearing today at provincial court in Harbour Grace, 41-year-old Matthew Kavanagh, 28-year-old Stephanie Noftel, both of Harbour Grace, and 34-year-old Terry Cole of Carbonear. He appeared via telephone from a cell in Holyrood. All 3 are charged with first-degree murder and committing an indignity to a human body by burning the victim inside this blue Chevy Colorado pickup truck on Country Road in Bay Roberts last week. All 3 were arrested without incident following an hours-long standoff at this house in Harbour Grace Saturday evening. An entire neighborhood was told to shelter in place, including nearly 200 people gathered here for a reception, while officers negotiated with the 3 suspects. The murder is believed to have occurred in this parking lot in Bay Roberts, just after daylight on the morning of September 30th.
We definitely believe that there were people present on the parking lot of the Needs Tim Hortons on LT Stick Drive when a physical altercation is believed to have occurred between the deceased and the 3 individuals. We believe highly that there are people out there that may have witnessed this altercation, and we are asking for their assistance.
All 4, the 3 accused and the deceased man, were well known to the police. The murder is not being linked to organized crime, but police say drugs may have played a role in what happened. This 2012 Honda Civic also being linked to the murder, but has not yet been located. The Civic and the Chevy left the Tim's parking lot, traveling towards Country Road at 7:30 a.m. A short time later, police received a report of a burning pickup.
Since the onset of this investigation, our police officers have been working tirelessly to solve this heinous crime.
While the circumstances are similar, Garland says last week's homicide is not linked to the April 2023 killing of Adam Mercer in Harbour Grace, and police say it's also separate from a shooting that occurred recently on Random Island.
These crimes have shaken a number of communities and the residents of our province.
All 3 of the accused murderers will remain in custody until their next court appearance in Harbour Grace on October 21st. Terry Roberts, CBC News, Bay Roberts.
Well, a 200-kilometer high-speed chase over the weekend ended with an arrest and a truckload of charges for one central Newfoundland man. It all started late Saturday afternoon in Grand Falls, Windsor. Here Now's Troy Turner has the details.
Traffic on this section of the TCH is calm today. The speed limit here is 60 kilometers per hour, a safe speed through this part of Gander. But late Saturday afternoon, the scene was a lot different.
That's when a white transport truck with no trailer attached sped through central Newfoundland with police in hot pursuit. It's alleged the truck was stolen in Grand Falls, Windsor, and began making its way east, where police started their chase. The truck was at the eastern edge of Terra Nova National Park when it finally stopped.
We were just entering the park. We actually got a call from another truck driver saying that there's another driver on the loose and a high-speed chase, telling us to watch out for him and be careful. So, yeah, and we entered the park. There was a bunch of cops putting down the spike strips.
Go.
Kim Collins shot video of the arrest.
I got a video. We didn't actually see them hit any strips because they were expecting them, I guess, to go further and stop them. But yeah, we met him and he had a tire blown in the front, and he was just pulled over then when he opened up the door, and then the cops all pulled him out. My comment at the beginning of the video, that was, yeah, you could tell that I was pretty freaked out.
The man police hauled out of the rig is William Matthew Morris. He's 39 years old and from Bishop's Falls. In the truck cab, officers said they found open alcohol. Was he impaired? Morris refused to do a breathalyzer test.
From the first call to police to the arrest, it was 90 minutes of drama on the highway. Collins is glad no one was hurt.
Because it could have been a whole lot worse, I think. There was nobody killed, so that's very lucky, I think.
After his weekend highway adventure, Morris is facing a truckload of charges, including theft, evading police, dangerous driving, and refusing to give an alcohol breath test. Troy Turner, CBC News, Gander.
Little did James Murphy know when he got behind the wheel in September, driving to his home in Bay Roberts, he was breaking the law.
Anxiety was, I don't think I slept all weekend.
Waiting in his mailbox, envelopes that Murphy did not expect.
I discovered these 2 letters from motor vehicle registration. First one that I opened was stating that my license had been suspended for the next 4 months due to a ticket I had received and been convicted in traffic court of at the end of July.
The letter said his license had been suspended for weeks, convicted for a crime he says he didn't commit. There was no sign of his plate number on the paperwork, so Murphy wondered if it was a scam.
Then the next thing goes through your mind. You're wondering, did somebody get a hold of my license and manage to clone my license or something like that? You're always worried about now with identity theft and stuff like that. Those are the first things that kind of go through your mind.
Murphy needed answers, so he came here to the RCMP, but they couldn't tell him anything. And he didn't want a chance getting behind the wheel before he could clear his name.
I didn't know if it was safe for me to drive that weekend or not, so I didn't. On the off chance that I get stopped for a routine check or something, and you could end up in the back of a squad car if you're driving without a suspended license. And according to the paperwork, I'd already been convicted in traffic court of this said offense.
His next stop was here, the Motor Registration Division at Bay Roberts, but things didn't go the way he planned. That's because staff here couldn't explain it. He says they took his paperwork, made some calls, and 15 minutes later, he was good to go. They said not to worry, that it would be resolved, and soon he'd receive a letter saying so. But over 2 weeks later, nothing.
They didn't offer any explanation. I'm guessing they didn't want to point the finger at wherever the fault lay. What really is troubling to me is that it had to go through the police, it had to go through a traffic court, and ultimately through motor vehicle, all being assigned a ticket for driving while suspended for somebody who doesn't even have as much as a parking ticket. So somewhere along the way, there has to be a fail-safe. Somewhere along the way, the ball has been dropped somewhere.
Murphy's back on the road now. He needs to be. He drives about 1,500 kilometers for work each week. That's why the possibility of losing his license made him lose some sleep. We reached out to the Department of Digital Government and Services for comment, but a spokesperson said it can't respond to individual records and didn't answer any of our questions. Maddie Ryan, CBC News, Bay Roberts.
Well, you can start booking appointments for your fall flu and COVID-19 vaccinations. The chief medical examiner is urging everyone to get the shot in 2 weeks' time, not just those in the high-risk groups.
It may not be too bad for you, but you might end up passing it on to somebody who may get severe disease. So we certainly don't want that to happen, and we want to reduce that as much as possible. So, to protect yourself, your loved ones, your community, we certainly recommend that everybody avail of the vaccine.
Now, those high-risk groups include those over 65, people living in long-term care or congregate living, anyone with underlying medical conditions, pregnant people, as well as First Nations, Inuit, and Métis. Dr. Janice Fitzgerald says we're seeing more cases of COVID-19 compared to this time last year. Appointments will begin on October 21st and can be booked online starting today at timefortheshot.ca. Meanwhile, the province says it's still working to catch up with an outbreak of whooping cough.
The outbreak is continuing. It's, I think we're up to about 263 cases now. And so we have seen that spread across the island, as we said. And NLHS has been quite diligent in carrying out their vaccination campaign. And so we've started the work to, we were going to do 2 grades this year and 2 grades next year to do a catch up in that age group. And so that is underway. And so, work is underway. We're still working through it. Pertussis outbreaks are generally a little longer lived than a lot of other kind of outbreaks that we might have.
Well, CBC News has learned the federal government will be making some of its properties available for new housing projects, including one here in this province. According to the Federal Minister of Public Services and Procurement, the Taxation Centre on Empire Avenue is on the list. The lot is more than 4.5 hectares in size, including a building and parking lot. The minister says 100 housing units could be built on that land. Ottawa is announcing tomorrow that 14 properties across the country are being added to the Canada Public Lands Bank, and that will make them available for housing development. Well, MPs in Ottawa on the Standing Committee on Fisheries and Oceans are looking into the federal government's decision to reopen the commercial northern cod fishery. The federal Liberals reopened the fishery to offshore vessels back in June. They also increased quotas to 18,000 tons. The decision has been criticized by politicians and scientists. Documents obtained by CBC show that DFO actually recommended against lifting the moratorium, but political staff to Minister Diane Leboutillier said the move would be a political victory. Here's some of the exchange in Ottawa this afternoon.
Mr. Burns, we heard the minister say in a statement to Radio Canada that, and her words were that we are revitalizing this fishery carefully. And we know what the options that you presented to the minister are. Do you think that this is, in fact, a careful approach, like she was quoting, when in fact it is the least careful of all the approaches that has been moving forward with by the minister?
When the department presents the minister with advice, we always present, we only present options which are viable options, and so certainly the option which the minister decided upon, we believe to be a viable option, and in fact, the science advice indicates that there is a very significant probability that the stock will remain in the cautious zone. And indeed, it is only about 1% lower probability than were the minister to have rolled over the stewardship fishery. So the difference between the commercial fishery, which is now in place, and the stewardship fishery, which was previously in place, of course, is not the full 18,000 tons. It's only a difference of 5,000 tons for Canadian harvesters. And as I note, the science advice based on that is a very, very limited difference in the, I guess you could say, the impact on the stock.
Well, from codfish to something much, much bigger, an American group that tracks sharks says it's been tracking a great white in the waters off Bonavista. OSearch says a Florida shark, Mahone, pinged its location near the Bonavista Peninsula at the end of last month, and that's the farthest north any of the nearly 100 sharks the group tracks has ever gone.
We have been monitoring white sharks in this population, the Northwest Atlantic, since about 2012. We've been ramping up and tagging more and more as the years go on. In the early years, we started tagged a few key animals, and that sort of led us to Atlantic Canada. We tagged them in the southeast United States and places like that, and we realized the satellite tags were telling us that a lot of these sharks are going up to Atlantic Canada. It's shown us, some of these tracks have shown us that white sharks utilize this area of Atlantic Canada quite broadly, but they use it for their summer feeding ground. So they go up there every year, and we think the focus is largely on the seals, the gray seal population, which has been doing very well in recent years. It's particularly the larger, closer to adult-sized white sharks, the ones that are greater than 10 feet long, start to shift their diet away from fish and start to focus more on seals. Mahone is doing something a little different than we've seen with any of our other tagged white sharks. That's the furthest north along the Newfoundland east coast that we've seen of any of our white sharks thus far. Okay. Not to say that no other white sharks have done it, but of the ones we've tagged, and we've tagged 92 along this eastern seaboard of the United States and Canada. And this is the only one that's shown that has gone to that specific vicinity. And he's kind of on a sort of northward path. And it's getting into quite cold water up there too. So it deviates from the typical pattern we've seen. Obviously, we can't track the ones that aren't tagged. So maybe there are other white sharks that are going up that far, but it is unique to the 92 that we've tagged on this population. We haven't seen one quite go up that area before.
Well, it's not just sharks along our coasts. Leatherback turtles are not newcomers, but they're still a fascinating sight for some. A group from Florida Atlantic University has been tracking turtles along their journey from the Sunshine State to here. Researchers say they make the journey to chillier waters for the buffet of jellyfish.
Turtles will kind of enter the Gulf and then just pretty much do loops around, pretty much searching for food, foraging, all that, for a couple months. It's a very unique and a very cool opportunity to kind of see where these turtles are. Especially the ones that we've tracked, or the ones that we've put on an O search are very, their tracks aren't that common. If that's what their behaviors are a bit kind of different than like the norm, like your typical tracks.
The scary part about this storm right now is that we are less than 2 weeks, from the last one. So many people have the entire contents of their home out on the street.
Well, Florida braces for impact. This storm forecasted to be worse than the last. We connect with a Newfoundlander living in the hurricane's path.
Yeah, we're certainly going to talk about that storm. We're not going to see any impacts here in Newfoundland and Labrador, but we are going to see some showers over the next couple of days. I'll break it all down for you coming up.
I love those old pictures like this.
A lot of history here.
Everybody looks like they were, just posing for the pictures, eh?
These are people who made me who I am.
Somebody's got to tell the stories.
Well, Ashley, before we get to the weather, a pretty scary situation unfolding in the States. The southern United States is bracing for its second major storm in less than 2 weeks.
Yep, Hurricane Milton strengthened into a dangerous Category 5 storm today in the Gulf of Mexico. The state is preparing for its largest evacuation in 7 years, and Milton is projected to make landfall late on Wednesday in the heavily populated area of Tampa Bay.
It could remain a hurricane as it moves across the state toward the Atlantic Ocean, and this comes on the heels of the catastrophic storm Helene, which swamped the coastline on September 26th.
Yeah, and it's been 2 decades since this many storms crossed over Florida within such a short period of time. And Newfoundlanders living abroad are bracing for the worst. Here Now's Jessica Singer has more.
Hurricane Helene ripped through the southeastern United States just 2 weeks ago. Record flooding killed over 200 people along the East Coast. Now another, bigger, more dangerous storm is barreling towards Florida. Hurricane Milton climbed from Category 3 to Category 5 in a matter of hours on Monday. Gina Quinn is originally from Conception Bay South. For around 20 years, she's been a nurse in Tampa. At her job, she's helped people through many storms, but she says this one will be different.
We've never had one come at us this direction before, straight across the Gulf. It looks like it's, coming straight at us. So everyone's going to be affected right across Florida. I mean, this is not, Helene was 100 miles offshore, and look at the damage that the storm surge did to St. Pete, Clearwater, Cedar Key, all up and down the coast. This one's coming straight in. And those areas are already saturated with water and debris, and this one's scary.
Quinn boarded up her house to protect it from projectiles, things like flying debris from Hurricane Helene damage. But keeping her belongings safe isn't her biggest concern.
We're a little nervous because my partner, Carlos, he has a lot of family in the area, his kids, and we have a grandson right now who's in the NICU, who's going to be spending his first hurricane in the hospital. But, that's probably one of the safest places to be during the storm. I worry about people mostly, houses, belongings, things, all that can be replaced, but you can't replace people.
Evacuation orders are already in place, but Quinn can't leave. She'll ride out Milton at Tampa General Hospital. She hopes people who can leave do so soon and prepare as much as possible. Jessica Singer, CBC News, St. John's.
And here's the latest on Hurricane Milton. A beautiful storm as far as it looks like on the satellite. Very small storm in comparison to what we saw a couple of weeks ago, but it strengthened rapidly this afternoon, strengthened to a Category 5 hurricane, pressure down to 911 millibars. There have been very few hurricanes that have been that low, especially this late in the season. In fact, this is the strongest hurricane to be in the Gulf of Mexico for the Atlantic season this late in the season. So winds topping out at 280 kilometers per hour, wind gusts at 305. And at the moment, it is moving east. Now, as we head through the next couple of days, the storm is going to take a turn to the north. It will eventually encounter some shear, and that should help to lessen the strength of the hurricane, but still expected to make landfall potentially as a Category 3 hurricane late on Wednesday, with wind speeds topping out at about 205 kilometers per hour. Now, just like Helene, it is the storm surge, and typically is what happens where we see the most damage is with the storm surge. So a large area, pretty much from Fort Myers through to Tampa, could see upwards of 4 meters of storm surge in that time frame, and definitely it will be catastrophic in some cases as well. That's definitely what they're talking about. Now, here in Newfoundland and Labrador, we are not going to see any effects from this storm. It's actually going to be fairly quiet weather-wise over the next couple of days. We've got this big ridge of high pressure to the north and an area of low pressure to the south. It is bringing us back in that onshore flow, though, so we are still seeing some cloud cover along with some drizzle in most cases along the northeast coast there. And overall, our temperatures, you can definitely tell, single digits or just barely there at about 10 degrees in St. John's this afternoon. And really the top spot for temperatures is Daniels Harbor at 13 degrees. And really along the south coast, we're seeing temperatures between 11 to 13 degrees as well. Current temperatures, though, we're down a couple of degrees here and there. 9 in St. John's, 6 in Lassie, and 7s right across the board for the Labrador coast, as well as down through to the northern peninsula. St. Anthony sitting at 7 degrees. So we can really see that lower level onshore flow there. And we've got some high cloud. There's a bit of a disturbance down to the south that is bringing some of that cloud cover up towards our neck of the woods. But other than that, there isn't really a whole lot happening. And there won't be as we head through tonight either. Just the chance of some drizzle and some fog patches, certainly possible in that northerly flow. We should actually see some clearing up through portions of Labrador, but next weather maker moving in, it is going to bring some shower activity towards Lab West as we head into the early morning hours. And overnight tonight, temperatures are going to be fairly chilly, especially up across Labrador, anywhere from -1 to +3, and across the island as well, especially low-lying areas. You have a good chance of seeing some temperatures around just a couple of degrees above zero, but we should stay in the double digits to the east, around 10 degrees in St. John's tonight. But again, most of the winds will be out of the northeast. As we head into tomorrow, same thing, pretty much carbon copy of today. We may see some sunny breaks there in the mix across the island. The best chance of seeing the sun will be for the southwest again. Then this system continues to bring some periods of rain, especially to Lab West as we head through the evening hours and to the overnight. In fact, there is some cold air in behind this. It does look like there's some chances that we'll see some snow potentially later in the week up across portions of Labrador. Tomorrow, temperatures will sit between 10 to as much as maybe 13 or 14 degrees, maybe even 15 in the for the Burin Peninsula, Marystown, and some areas may see the single digits as well. So we're really not seeing a whole lot of movement in the temperature. Single digits, the story up across Labrador as well. This is above where you should be sitting this time of year. Typically between 4 and 5 degrees is where you should be sitting. So a little bit above for now. And like I said, it's going to cool down as we head through the end of the week. Southeasterlies will be gusting anywhere from 20 to 40 kilometers per hour. I'll have the long range forecast a little later.
So we're not saying these people are involved in the drug trade, but we do suspect substance abuse to be present within the individuals involved.
3 people charged with first-degree murder. We return to today's RCMP press conference. That's just ahead. Returning now to our top story, police are explaining what happened over the weekend. 3 people are facing charges of first-degree murder after a body was found last week inside a burning vehicle in Bay Roberts. Corporal Jolene Garland of the RCMP met with reporters earlier today.
Yes, confirming the missing individual, Stephanie Naftel, that was reported missing last week, is the same individual who now faces a charge of homicide and indignity to human remains. Yes, this was absolutely a targeted attack. The deceased and the 3 that are under charge are all known to one another.
Do you know why this man from Spanish Bay was killed?
I don't have the motive behind that. That also remains under investigation at this time.
Was the victim dead when the fire was set?
We believe so, yes.
Were there any other arrests linked to any of this over the weekend? Or
No, the 3 individuals were arrested at that one residence late Saturday evening. And we believe they are the only involved in this crime at this point.
And can you tell us how long that standoff occurred on Saturday? Was it?
It was at least three plus hours. I'd have to look back on when we were engaged, but it certainly ended around 9 p.m. and I'd say it started somewhere around 6 p.m., but I can get back to you with more specifics.
Did you seize anything in that house or any firearms?
No weapons were seized.
And this man, do you know how he was killed?
That remains under investigation as well. As we mentioned already, it is believed that he was deceased before the fire was set.
Did the suspects come out in the end? Or?
Yes, the suspects surrendered themselves. There was a crisis negotiation team present at the property as well as a large number of other police resources, and the 3 suspects surrendered themselves without any further incident.
Did the public play a role in helping you locate these individuals?
We had a number of tips. Last Monday, we had a missing persons case. We put that out. We believe that individual is missing, and we were concerned for her safety and well-being, that being Stephanie Naftel. Throughout the week, we had a number of public tips identifying various locations where she may have been. As part of the investigation, we were able to determine that later in the week, that she had some knowledge about this incident and, in fact, that she was involved in the crime, and it appeared that she was evading police.
Do you know if this was drug-related?
We certainly feel that there could be an element of drugs. We're not saying these people are involved in the drug trade, but we do suspect substance abuse to be present within the individuals involved.
Why exactly do you believe it's targeted?
Because the 3 people know one another, because the 3 people were acquaintances of one another, because the 3 people and the deceased were present together at the gas station. So, this is not a random act of, somebody just was murdered. This definitely was an incident where these were known to one another, and there was a reason why this happened.
Any evidence that this was part of a bigger organization?
Not at this time. We have the 3 people that we believe worked together to commit this crime, but for what benefit, we certainly can't say it's organized crime.
Well, Thrive is celebrating 20 years of its street outreach program. This weekend, supporters took to the streets in a different way, raising money for the initiative. The event was part of the annual Ride for Refuge, which raises money for charities across the country with a bike ride or walk.
We're raising money specifically for Street Reach, which is celebrating its 20th year this year. The thing that Street Reach really has done, and we hear on a consistent basis, is create a safe space and a bit of a community for people who may have felt a little bit, like left out or forgotten about. And there's a place that they can come every day and they feel safe, they feel connected, and they know somebody there genuinely cares for them and is going to do everything they can to help them.
Sometimes I help in the dining room, greeting our visitors, our participants in the program that evening, helping settle people with coffee, tea, have chats with them, help in the kitchen with cleaning up the food, and I also help assemble harm reduction kits. People appreciate that Street Reach Thrive is a really safe place to go where they will be supported and helped no matter what, and that's crucial at various points in their lives. They are treated with respect and with a great welcome, and everybody's doing their utmost to help them live life to the fullest extent as possible, helping them out with various resources, like supportive listening conversation and practical help as well.
We're seeing a significant increase in the number of people who are reaching out, and of course obviously the cost of goods that we're purchasing, particularly food, those costs have risen, but we're seeing like over 100% increase in the first quarter versus what we've seen in the first quarter of 2023. In the next 5 years, I'd love to see some real innovation around how do we address the housing shortage that we have, how do we address the cost of rent, and how do we address the levels of poverty that people are facing. So we're really committed to working with our partners to try to come up with those creative solutions.
Returning now to today's news conference with the province's chief medical officer, Dr. Janice Fitzgerald is urging everyone in the province who is eligible to sign up to receive their flu and COVID-19 fall vaccinations. Now, the sign-up starts today with first appointments beginning in 2 weeks' time. Here she is speaking with our Mark Quinn.
We still recommend getting vaccinated to do exactly that, to reduce the risk of spread. If you're not at high risk for severe disease, you may get flu or COVID, but you may then end up passing it on. It may not be too bad for you, but you might end up passing it on to somebody who may get severe disease. So we certainly don't want that to happen, and we want to reduce that as much as possible. So, to protect yourself, your loved ones, your community, we certainly recommend that everybody avail of the vaccine.
And I just realized that I said during the pandemic, sort of in the past tense. Is the pandemic over?
I don't know. We have moved out of the public health emergency. We're certainly treating COVID as as a part of the respiratory virus landscape now, and something that's going to be a part of our lives going forward. So in that sense, I think we've moved on from the pandemic. The WHO has, declared it's not a public health concern, anymore. So international concern, sorry. So, in some ways, yes, I guess, but COVID is still everywhere, and it's certainly across the globe. So when that actually sort of merges from one into the other is a bit nebulous, I guess. But.
The United Jewish Appeal Federation of Greater Toronto is marking the anniversary of the day Hamas militants attacked Israel. Israel's special envoy for combating anti-Semitism spoke out ahead of an event organized by the group, which will take place tonight.
I am here as Israel's special envoy because the very same anti-Semitism that fueled the atrocities of October the 7th, that murdered and raped and butchered and abducted, is the anti-Semitism that fuels the responses to those atrocities, those war crimes, those crimes against humanity.
The organization is using the gathering to remember those who were murdered on October 7th, to honor those who survived, and to reaffirm solidarity with the hostages and their families. Well, university campuses have been a place for people to protest, debate, and gather since the Hamas attack on Israel 1 year ago sparked the war in Gaza. Today, pro-Palestinian demonstrators moved through the streets of Montreal. They want to bring attention to the crisis in Gaza. The enclave's Hamas-run health ministry says more than 41,000 people have been killed over the past year, including civilians and militants. And outside McGill University, a memorial was held to commemorate the victims of the attack amid heavy police presence. Well, police investigators are trying to learn more about an alleged serial killer. Sabrina Calder has been charged with killing 3 people in 3 different Ontario cities in 3 days last week. CBC's Lisa Shing has more on the investigation and on how friends and families of the victims are dealing with the tragedy.
The card games go on at this Italian social club, but without one of its regulars.
There was a gentleman and a scholar and a judge of fine wines.
Just a very pleasant man, quiet, humble, just an excellent friend and member of the club.
That friend, 77-year-old Mario Bilic, a retired teacher, stabbed to death in Hamilton, Ontario, Thursday. Bilic's daughter, Serena, posted, "I sit in a puddle of tears thinking about my dad, a great man with a huge heart." The alleged killer, 30-year-old Sabrina Calder, arrested in a nearby city, now charged with 3 murders. Security video obtained by CBC News shows Bilic's final moments, leaving the Italian club to head to his car, while Calder allegedly followed him. And here, the same woman running from the crime scene.
We were all taken aback. My goodness, this is madness.
Bilic is the last of 3 people police believe Calder killed in 3 different cities in a span of 3 days. The others, an unidentified woman in her 60s in a West Toronto neighborhood, the only one who police say called her new, and 47-year-old Lance Cunningham in a Niagara Falls park. In an email to CBC News, his wife Kim wrote, "He was my best friend, a wonderful father for our daughter, the fun dad. He did not deserve this." So far, police say there's no clear motive, and since the victims were both targeted and random,
it is allegedly a case of serial murder, but it also again has a lot of these traits that are more closely aligned with historically what criminologists and homicide scholars would call a spree killer.
Niagara police say the accused had previous interactions with police but never charged Coulthard. Now they're trying to find out whether any other attacks in the province might be linked. Lisa Shing, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, in Florida today, a European spacecraft and 2 cube-shaped probes launched aboard a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, ignition. Engines full power.
The mission's aim is to visit an asteroid that NASA intentionally knocked off course using a probe in 2022. The Hera spacecraft is due to reach its destination in 2 years to measure the size and depth of the impact crater and to study the composition of the asteroid. This is part of an international effort to determine if we can prevent dangerous asteroids from hitting Earth.
healthcare.org.
I love those old pictures like this.
A lot of history here.
Everybody looks like they were, just posing for the pictures, eh?
These are people who made me who I am.
Somebody's got to tell the stories.
Well, you're looking at some shots there from Florida as people are preparing for Hurricane Milton. Officials there, senators, warning people to get out and prepare, to not take any risks. The storm has strengthened into a dangerous Category 5 storm in the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah, Milton is projected to make landfall late Wednesday, likely in the heavily populated area of Tampa Bay. Much of Florida's west coast and even the Miami area are under hurricane and storm surge watches at the moment.
Yeah, and Ashley, you were saying during the break, because you're of course keeping a really close eye on this, that even since the last time that you and I spoke, when you were up here doing your weather the last time, the storm has intensified even more.
Yeah, we typically get an update around 6:30 local time. So obviously I was on a little bit before that, so we didn't get the updated forecast. But just take a look at now, it was 911 millibars before, and we're down to 905 millibars. So the winds have now are being clocked at 285 kilometers per hour, and winds topping out with the wind gusts at 350 kilometers per hour. So just an incredibly intense storm, and definitely one that we will be talking about over the coming days. Like I said, this has no effect on our weather, at least for the time being. But we do have some weather happening as we head into your Wednesday. We're going to see some shower activity likely for Lab West as we get into the afternoon. This will spin some showers as well all along the island as we head into the afternoon hours on Wednesday. Overall, our temperatures are going to bump up a little bit, so they'll be sitting around 12 to 15 degrees through the day, so not much, but we'll still see a bit of a bump, except across the northern peninsula and along the strait there, temperatures will be hovering in the single digits. Same thing for Lab City, northern portions of Labrador. Otherwise, the rest of the Big Land will be sitting somewhere between 10 to 12 degrees into the afternoon on Wednesday. This area of low pressure is going to sit pretty much and affect us over the next couple of days. So we could see some periods of rain by Thursday morning affecting the Avalon, and there is starting to be some pink and some blue show up in the forecast maps. That's the potential for some snow there. Now, temperatures should be above zero, so if we do see any snow, it'll likely be in the overnight and in the higher elevations. So for now, I don't think we need to worry about it. Later on in the week, towards the weekend maybe. But like I said, definitely some rain possible on Thursday evening. For the Avalon, there's a little bit of disagreement on just how much rain is going to fall, but I'm going to keep an eye on that one because we could see some significant rain with that. But overall, temperatures will be into the teens through central and the west coast, even the northern peninsula. You may see some sunny breaks in the mix there as well. Again, it will completely depend on the situation, but that will be our next weather maker. Up across Labrador, 7 to 10 degrees. As your daytime high. In the long-range forecast, like I said, that rain potentially on Thursday. Friday and Saturday still looking a tad unsettled through the day with some shower chances and also some sunshine in the mix, though. But overall, temperatures will dip a little bit, 11 to 12 degrees for your Friday and Saturday. For central Newfoundland, it looks a little unsettled right through to Saturday. Daytime highs will be between 11 to 14 degrees and overnight lows in the single digits. A few showers for western Newfoundland for Thursday. Like I said, maybe a few peaks of sun, but rain on Friday and some showers on Sunday as well. And then for eastern Labrador, you're also looking at some rain arriving Wednesday night, continuing as we head into Thursday. Friday and Saturday looking at temperatures between 9 and 10 degrees. And then for western Labrador, you are also looking at unsettled weather. I do think by Saturday, that's when we should be talking about that chance of some flurries in the mix. 3 degrees is your daytime high, 0 for your overnight low. So I think if we see some snow, that will be when we see it. Our photo of the day in Torres Cove. Great shot here. We've had some pretty decent evenings lately, and this one no different. This is a beautiful evening from the cabin. Gary shared this great shot with us, and if you have any weather photos that you would like to share with us, you can do that by sending them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Yeah, we've been getting some nice photos from cabins too, similar to that with the fires by the water.
Everybody's enjoying their days.
Yeah, really nice.
Soaking up every little last bit of summer.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Still can't get over you talking about that hurricane and gusts of 350 kilometers an hour.
I can't even imagine what. I mean, I guess you would see that in some tornadoes, but yeah, incredible wind. Now, they won't be that high once but that storm surge, something to watch for sure.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, thank you for that, Ashley, and I'm sure we'll be talking more about this in the days to come. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you have a wonderful evening.